This video now is all about setting up our 3D environment. We're going to be using this asset, the huge playground Post-Apocalyptic. As you can see, here's a preview. This is going to be our store area here. We're going to change these signs. I modeled a big billboard, or I'm in the process of modeling it. You can see that actually here, where I have my big 3D sign that we're going to use. And that's going to be this billboard, and we will rearrange the inners, make things upgradable. I'll probably retexture things so we can upgrade it, make it look nice. And of course, add enemies, add other locations, questing places. So this is a really big scene, and that's why I like it, but there's a lot of setup that goes into creating something like this to optimize it and make it workable for a big 3D game. I have the documentation right here. Here's our Unity project. I have a basic character controller who's not set up and textured or anything properly. But the documentation for that asset is right here, and it's like, I believe 116 pages or something. And that kind of becomes your life once you're setting up a ton of assets. It's just reading documentation and getting things working. But if you look at the first part of it here, it talks about it's an additive system, meaning in the it uses additive scenes. So in the game, in the hierarchy here, you'll actually see a bunch of scenes that are loaded dynamically based on the player's position. So if you're roaming a huge, open world environment, it tracks the player's position relative to the objects in the scene and loads only what's around them. So that's a way of optimizing. Or in the huge, context of the environments, it only loads the scene that your character is located. So we're going to go ahead and work through that documentation to get things. You can skip the introduction, how to start. I already have the URP, which is the Universal Render Pipeline package, installed. If you do need that, you just come up to Windows or Window Package Manager, and then right here, Unity Registry. You can scroll down to Universal Render Pipeline, which is right there, Universal RP. Or, I can click it in project, and here's all the assets that I already have, and it's right there. Sometimes there's like an update, or if something's wrong, sometimes I'll remove it and then re-add it, and it kind of resets things. But this documentation tells us some steps we have to do to configure it properly. And right here, we installed it on our solid state drive. Talks more about additive scenes. So we can go up here to the, let's see, edit. And then I believe it wants us in the Windows. Okay. It wants us in the project settings. So we'll come here, edit, project settings, and it wants us graphics. From project tab, drag and drop universal render pipeline asset to scriptable render pipeline asset. And I believe that's already set up. But it's saying right here, default render pipeline settings. which but we're going to go ahead and use their pipeline asset, which is going to be in their folder, which is HPA render pipeline. Let me move this down here. So I'm in my project settings here, and then I'm in their folder looking for their render pipeline, and it's the universal render pipeline asset. So we're just going to go ahead and drag that in and set theirs is our render pipeline asset. And then in the project settings quality tab, I'm just following here. Maybe. In the quality tab, set render pipeline asset to none. So quality render pipeline asset. It says it may take a significant amount of time. It seemed to work pretty quickly. And I think it's just because I'm still just setting up the project. I don't have a ton of stuff in here. In project setting tab, select player, set color space to linear. Again, I think that's already done. Player, color space right here. You have linear, gamma. Most all assets I've ever seen, like Gaia or other graphic intensive assets, always want linear. That's kind of just the standard. I don't know all the specific differences, but linear color space seems to go to. So like quality, set LOD bias to 3. And what was that quality? LOD bias, right? Right here. 3. And an LOD is a level of detail based on, the model you're rendering, its position to the camera. The farther away from it, the less detailed it becomes. So I assume since this is a big open world environment, it just wants us to favor rendering the less detailed models, which makes sense to keep things performing smoothly. In the scene tab, press grid button. And this is pretty hard to see. Why is my... All right, I'm going to pause this video for just 1 second. Now we are going to go to, let's see, press grid button up here. Set move X to 1.5, 1.5. Okay, so we're just adjusting the grid snapping scale. Rotate to 90. Okay. So here, we're going to set all of these to 1.5. The others automatically scale. Snap to grid, yes. Rotate, we're going to set to 90. Scale, I believe is still 1. In project settings tab, select the universal render pipeline asset renderer. Then we're going to enable post-processing. Enabled. Screen space ambient occlusion. Okay, let's go to that renderer. HPA render pipeline. Here's the renderer. So we want post-processing enabled. Screen space ambient occlusion, we'll enable it. It says right here it's pretty resource intensive, so you can disable it if you wish, but we want it. Okay, step 3, preparing our project. To be able to calculate light maps on a large scene, the demo scene is separated into several scenes and recombined in the hierarchy tab. Scenes are loaded additively. To set up demo scenes, we'll place all necessary scenes in the hierarchy. To configure, in project tab, double click on gameplay scene to open it. If we want to configure the demo with additional features, minimap, new locations, feedback, shortcut info, FPS counter, and sun movement, use gameplay scene full, but they're not explained in the documentation. And I also want to use all my own assets to do the mini map and scene locations and quests and dialogue and so let's just use the gameplay scene. Well, let's try it. Let's try gameplay scene full, and then we will delete what we don't want from there. So assets, HPA, other, scene full, and gameplay scene full. So HPA, other, scene full, gameplay scene full. We'll go ahead and save. So you can see we kind of have our, okay, this is our gameplay scene. I'm just underneath the map. So it looks like here are our bounding zones of the map or surrounding environment, different scenes, but in the hierarchy here, we have a manager, character camera, sun direction, post-processing, background map limit demo. Okay. But I don't even see the demo group there in our asset. That is okay. It is. It's right here. Cool. From project tab, drag and drop procedural scene to the hierarchy. So demo procedural. We'll do that. Contains all procedural objects: roads, electricity poles, fences, and crash barrier. Okay. Right here. So we want procedural, drag and drop that into the hierarchy. So it'll load in. Yeah. There we can see there's all of our procedural elements: fences, crash barriers, electricity poles, roads. Okay, and as you can see, this is a pretty large map. And then in the hierarchy tab, it's possible to drag and drop several scenes at a time. From the project tab, drag and drop zone 1 to zone 9. Okay. So here we have zone 1, hold shift, select 9, and then we will drag all of that in here. I'm going to go ahead and pause this while it loads. And there we are. It took about 50 seconds. Now in the hierarchy here, you can see each zone contains all of the objects for that zone. And I believe that these red areas, let's see, I don't know what these do yet. I would imagine like the collision with the player loads the objects inside of these buildings. And then once you're outside of the zones, it deloads them. So you're not rendering and processing everything. But so I believe, where am I going to set up my store at? I believe it's over here. And I'm not sure how I'll do it yet, but we'll make it so you can clear out these cars and upgrade, and that these doors will open. But it'll kind of be the player's job to stock all these shelves, to clean them up, to move them around. And maybe we'll use like a grid-based tool that lets them place custom shelves, stock them, choose what's on there, sell them. Then it'll attract customers. Here's our inventory. You'll have to come back here. Use a pallet jack to drag things around. But I think it'll be a pretty funny thing. And then out here, it's all post-apocalyptic. You got to go around and scavenge items to stock your shelves with. And then we will use our big sign here that I showed. We'll create the full billboard sign. This isn't like not done at all. We haven't textured it or was just experimenting with different mat caps there. But we'll inset it. You can see the other videos on my website. I'm getting distracted here. Okay, so the first time, okay, so let's press play and see what's going on. We should have some sort of demo character controller in here. I'm going to go ahead and pause this while it loads. It said it might take up to a couple minutes the first time we play it. Okay, no, it looks like it's going fast. Right when I paused it, it clicked and loaded. Okay, so we have a first person character controller here. No idea what the controller's doing here. I'm pressing the D key and my character is moving backwards. I'm pressing the W key, nothing's going on. The S key moves the character to the left. So I can move left and backwards. Let's see, I have a controller plugged in. Okay, it's not set up with a controller input, but that's not a problem. You can see our mini map up there. Sorry, this is not working as expected. I'm just running anyway, we have our scene. I'm just running forward and backwards. And okay, let's see what the next step is. I'm not sure if we logged any error messages there. Do not take warning into account. Using additive scenes increase the opening and closing duration when you press play or stop. Yeah, okay, we got one error. That's fine. Let's see what our next. There's a link to minimizing opening and closing time. That's fine. Okay, this is what's going on. It wasn't a WASD controller like I expected. It's ESD and F. That explains it. Hold shift to run, spacebar to jump, C to crouch. If you have gameplay elements for your project, put them in the gameplay scene. If you don't want to copy your gameplay elements into gameplay scene, which we will. I don't know why we wouldn't. All right, so there is our procedural, all of our different zones here, which we'll have to go through and bake like the navigation mesh for each zone, I'm sure, and mark these different areas as static to let our enemy AIs be able to roam around, which I think I'm going to use A-Star Pathfinding Project to do that. But let's find our character controller because I didn't care for that. Okay, there's our capsule character, our first person controller. Character camera. So let's go ahead and kill that. Not rename it. Come on. I'll have to figure out what was going on with that. The second I hit record, nothing works. Then the character I set up, let's just have my basic character here. I go into Invector. I already set this up in the other scene, but I didn't make it a prefab. We want to make it a shooter. Create shooter controller. We're going to drag our character here. Missing an animator. Alright. Not a humanoid. Okay, it's giving me all the oh, I know why. Because I didn't use my rigged model so. Whoa, what's going on up here? Check that out. All these tool windows. They're all tools. Huh. Never seen that before. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. Things are slowing down. I'm not sure what's going on. It's still doing it, but let's continue anyway. Create shooter. All right, there we go. 0 issues. Now let's go ahead and press play. All right, we are in the play right here. And you can see this character is not set up at all. The materials are janky. It looks like the footprint texture isn't set up at all, but for the most part, the colliders are working. We have our basic character. My inventory system that comes with the Invector system is working. The UI on the minimap right there is, so we would just use Invector's event system there. So once we open the inventory, it disables the other UI elements. We can see on that UI we are not updating our position at all. It doesn't know there is a player on the map because the first person character controller that we disabled had a script that, you know, registered the character as the player. So let's go ahead and continue with our documentation. So we saved our scene. Oh, right here, use your own character controller. If you want to use your own character controller, follow these steps. So we disabled the character camera there, the group character camera, because I didn't want to delete anything without knowing for sure, but that was it. So there we go. So we deleted that. Add your character into the gameplay scene, which is right there. We're under the gameplay scene as opposed to these different procedural zones. So you can go ahead. I'm sure there's a shortcut that I am unaware of to close those, but this is our Invector controller, so I'm going to rename this player controller. So there's that. To use the optimization system, you must attach the optimization script included in the asset to your character. Yeah, and it right here, it hides or unhides prefabs depending on distance from player position. The script must be attached to the character. So let's see, add component, TS character tag. So let's try that. We have our player selected. We can scroll down here to add component. TS, what was it? Player tag, character tag, character tag. And it adds this script here. I double clicked it to open it. We'll take a look at it, but I'm going to go ahead and click play, and we're going to see if that updates our HUD there, our mini map. All right, we're loading in here. This Visual Studio is fighting me right now. I shouldn't have opened that, but I did. All right, now you can see when we rotate our camera, the arrow on the minimap faces us. So we might, I don't know, we'll go ahead with using this for now, but I also want to go ahead and experiment with creating our own minimap system and integrating it with our quest and dialogue system as well. You can still see it's kind of a little jank there, but this game is just for fun and to experiment with incorporating a bunch of different assets together into one workable project. I want to try and enter a different zone and see if like the zone UI pops up. We can change the sun position there by pressing U. Yeah, see right there, new location discovered. So I like that. Now it highlights it on our map. So that was just from adding the player tag. Now it registers the, I'm sure the collider on our, or the transform of our character within the world space by attaching that TS character tag script. Continuing on, we did that. Other important things to know about additive scenes. Calculating light maps with additive scenes requires calculating the light maps of each scene independently. Using light probes with additive scenes requires adding a script that recombines them at the start. The script is included in the asset. The name of the script is initialize light probes or init light probes. The script is in gameplay scene and SK gameplay scene. Create a build with additive scenes. When using additive scenes, it's necessary to load all the scenes at the start. Chapter 4 is entirely devoted to this subject. Environment parameters with additive scenes. When using additive scenes, use same environment parameters for all scenes. That's in the lighting tab here, or lighting window. So just make sure all your light map settings and environment settings stay the same for each scene. Good to know. And where did it say the manager, canvas loading, grid optimization, custom methods, light manager? So I'm wondering if this light, yeah, TS light, init script. Oh, right there, init manager. So that's going to be the initialization. And I closed everything. Okay. So just keep the environment settings the same. Speed up opening and closing time. We don't care about that right now. Creating your own map if you want to create and customize your own environment map. There you go. The link. Create a build with additive scenes. I think we want to explore this real quick. when working with additive scenes, it's necessary to create a scene that will load all the scenes of the game at start. As shown in the image below, the scene load additives will load the scene's gameplay scene and procedural and zones 1 through 9. So we need the engine needs to tell our game, Unity says, okay, load our first scene here, load the load additive scene, and then that has the script that loads every other scene. So we need to set that up in the build profiles. So we go to File, Build Profiles, and you can see we are building this for a Windows platform as opposed to Android or Linux or Mac. There's your consoles. I believe you need a different, like a pro license to build for specific consoles. But anyway, we're building for Windows. And build profiles. In the build profiles, Windows choose scene list. Right there. So you can see when we boot this project up or press play, it's, trying to load the sample scene. This is when we build our actual project into a runnable program. We need to include all of the scenes of the project or program in the scenes list, because this is what it tells to what it's actually building when we create the file. So we need to configure that. From project tab, drag and drop scene load additive to the build settings tab. So, okay. Yeah, you're right. They just have their project window where I normally dock my hierarchy. So I thought they were dragging from the hierarchy. So that's assets, HPA demo, load additive. So let's do that. We can make this smaller there. HPA demo, load additive. I don't think we want the sample scene. Load additive must be positioned into the list. Positioned first in the list is what it's, which, okay, there we go. Just right clicked and remove the sample scene selection. In the same way, drag and drop the following scenes. So then we want gameplay, procedural, and then zone 1 through 9 into our build settings. So let's do gameplay scene next. Procedural, and then click on zone 1, hold shift, click zone 9. I'm gonna go back and double check. Got load additive, gameplay scene, procedural, and then zone 1 through 9. Okay, into build profiles window, choose Windows. To create the build, press button build. So that's up here, but we're not ready to build anything yet. And I imagine maybe I could have just clicked add open scenes and it would have added everything there in my hierarchy, but I'm gonna follow the documentation and not guess. So if we click Windows, right there you can see our build button, and then it has our scenes right there. Building it for an Intel 64-bit build and run on the local machine. But we're not going to build anything yet. But if you continued on here and created all your gameplay and then went to build the final project and didn't add your scenes and then were confused when there was just like a sample scene. That's why. The first time to build, compute time is much longer. Adapt load additive scenes to your project. If you need to add new scene or remove a scene, follow this step. Okay. Start menu, main menu. Launch the game. As shown in the image below, we will add a start menu. When the start button is pressed, main menu is destroyed. Load additive scene is loaded. Load additive scene loads all the scenes necessary for the game. Once all the scenes have been loaded, load additive scene is destroyed. For example, main menu scene is included in this asset. Okay. Open the build profiles window. Add main menu to the build list. So assets, HPA scenes, main menu. And now we're gonna put main menu first. So let's see, HPA, was it scenes and then main menu? Let's go ahead here. See, re-click on scenes list, now load main menu. Okay, now that's above load additive, and you can see here it's scene 0 and then 1 through 12. If you want to learn more about loading the game from the start menu, link there. Okay, open build profiles. Add main menu to the builds list. Cool. Let's go ahead and call that a video for this one. And I'll continue to explore farther and see what else we need to know right now.